I have this thought that's the guy to so many things. For example, if there's someone, let me give you another example. Maybe it's a better example. If there's someone that has a very big mimcha in doctorai, okay, in Rafia, and he writes books on Rafia and so on, and then he says something, and then you say, okay, so doctorai is very important. And then there's another guy that is a big mimcha in philosophy. And he writes books about philosophy. So there's a machloikas. And people look at literally this story mamash happened in Yiddishkeit, and people think there's a machloikas. It happens also in the other disciplines, but it's very silly to think of this as a machloikas. So there's a machloikas. This guy says that life is about being healthy. It doesn't say a word about philosophy in his whole book. It says what you should eat, what you should drink, and what happens if you drink the wrong thing, and where you're going to go, and who is a better doctor, and all kinds of things that are talking about the human body and how it works, and so on. And then there's another guy who talks about how to have a good life and what to think about and and some tippish is going to come along and say, Machloikas. This, Zeomar philosophy, and Zeomar Rafia, and it's Mamash Machloikas. And someone's going to come and say, well, now we can say a teretz, right? When the guy's talking about Rafia, you have to see it's a mushal. There's also Rafia Sanefesh. And just like there's, you shouldn't eat too much, so you're going to get fat. Same thing, you shouldn't read so much Narish books, so you're going to have stupid ideas. That's a nice pshat. It's a nice way to connect it. But Maase, the kasha doesn't even begin, right? Or you can say verkehrt. When the guy said philosophy, just a mushal for Rafia. You could make it both mean the same thing if you want to be moitziyah samadai pshita, which is a step that we do. But really, right? I'm still in my mushal. But I'm still in my mushal. The kasha doesn't. You understand why the kasha doesn't even begin without the shal of if my pshat that the book of health is really about Rafia and Nefesh. The whole question doesn't begin. This is just a book about how to be healthy. If you want to know about how to be smart, you'll read a different book. This is not that book. There might be some connections. Maybe if you're not healthy, then you can't be, then nothing starts and so on. But it's not that book. It's just a different book, right? And exactly this mushal happens in different areas, and people just totally confused. And mamish don't begin to understand it. You know the best idea of this? The Baal Tanya, what he said. Right? For example, there's some guy that is memcha in halacha. Okay? And what does halacha mean? Halacha has its laws, its logic, its Mesorah. You learn Gemara and Rambam and Shulchan and Torah and Magen Avraham and Pilpiyam and so on. And this is his memcha. And halacha is a thing. Such a thing called halacha. Nobody, it empirically exists, right? Such a thing. And it's a closed word. Then there's another Yid, he's a Mekibel, and his thing is Kabbalah, and Kabbalah has its own thing how it works. It's not the same as halacha. It's not a teretz and halacha. It's not just a totally different thing. It's different problems, different teritzim. It's always going to a different oilam. It's always going to a different part of the world. Then someone says, wait, so the halacha doesn't seem to hold the whole halacha saif does say a word of Kabbalah, and vice versa. Assuming it would be as clean as that. Then it's not even a kasha. These are different areas, different intellectual disciplines, different, maybe even different things to do. Yeah, what's the half a minute that the Shulchan Aruch should say Kabbalah is Ari, and what's the half a minute that the Kavana Sarish say Shulchan Aruch? They both don't do the same thing. Wait. So now, okay, but Adkan is understandable. Now I want to go one step further with my mushal, because I think this is a good mushal. Okay, now one step further is that therefore you have to just get. But first, I want to get the basic thing, because I think that without it, nothing is true. Nothing makes sense. In other words, by definition, because I have a masoyer from Aseres that says, not because I want it to be like this. By definition, things that are oisek in that thing are oisek in that thing, and not in other things. There's no way out of this. It could come from God, it could come from the Malach Gabriel. It doesn't matter where it comes from. If Malach Gabriel comes and gives you a recipe, then that's a recipe for how to make chocolate cake. It's not anything else. It can't be anything else. Just because that's not what it is. If he comes and gives you a recipe for how to connect two Maluchim and Chavayzvus, then it's about that. That's just reality. That's just the most basic thing. And okay, now let's go to one more level, and which I think is also should be clear, but for some reason is not clear to a lot of people in both of these areas. Okay, one level further that's it's not literally the same thing. What Zerich Agav comes out is that if you went to school for one thing, you went to school to be a doctor, then you're probably going to be, hopefully you're going to be a good doctor, but you're going to have nothing smarter than any average person to say about politics or about philosophy. Gunish, nicht? He's such a doctor, so he must... Nothing, no shaykhs. You might happen to be a good doctor and a good philosopher also. You might happen to be a very dumb... No shaykhs is two things, right? Ask him also. not a lot of people are masking. A lot of people think that for all kinds of different confusions, right? Okay, maybe he's probably average. He probably has IQ, so he's a smart guy. But Maase, and a lot of scientists that say nonsense when it's not nonsense. You have to realize the level of nonsense. Not that we can say ding, and this is also a problem, but I can't get into that. Let's try to confuse things. A lot of times there's some guy's a scientist or a doctor, and he walks into philosophy and he says such stupid things. Not that they're stupid, they're good, but they're like in the first day of the sheet philosophy with for that kasha. That's not like you have a different shit there. You just nonsense, total nonsense. And by the way, the same thing happens, and vice versa. Vice versa for some reason happens less, but sometimes they do. Some people do. Sometimes it does happen. I don't want to. I could give thousands of examples, and I don't even think that I'm being ma'arid on this guy's groiskeit when I say this or anything. It just, why do you think that? Why would anyone think? Not what you think. Why you think? Because you're a human being. You think you know everything. Why would anyone think that you're even an address to ask this question? Very simple, but it's first you have to understand there's different disciplines in the world. People seem to not understand this. And why would let's say that then people you go to the roof and you ask him a question, and there's always ways how it's really connected. The Maase doesn't help. Again, in the basic logic, I just want life very clear, because always the basic logic is the clearest thing. And then you could find prutim, maybe you could always find the yitzim and a klal and tim tzan pshet lamas. If someone, and I want to say this very openly, if there's someone that we saw, he write how do I know, right? How do I know? Some people have this funny belief that anyone that's a how do they call it in Lakewood, the gadol be'Yisrael, must know everything. And of course, anyone that wrote a book on any of this Sfurim Shank is one of those people, so they must know anything. So we're going to find some diik in Halacha Sefer about Kabbalah, and we're going to base our whole theory about Kabbalah on that, or vice versa. We'll find some diik, the same funny thing. Some diik in Halacha and Kisveri, and we're going to base Halacha on that. What's going on here? Why would you even think that Arizal is interesting for it? Maybe, I'm sure he has some halachic opinions, just like any other Talmud Chacham. He wasn't that muretz, but nothing special. No reason to take it seriously. More than anything else. More than any other minig, and I'm just saying, okay, I'm ready. I already jumped into a theory of different machlokes. I'm just saying, yeah, if he says it Mitzat Kabbalah, then we have to, then we might trust him. But if he says Mitzat Halacha, then it's not interesting at all. I mean, it's interesting, just like any, put him on his list on the Yemei, one more achron. And the same thing in the other, but vice versa happens. Even the same thing. You see, some Mekibel says something, and it comes, or Mekibel or philosopher or something. He says, and he's a mimcha on this. Put in effort to figure it out, to make things work. And then some guy says, yeah, but I think that the Chimish Rashi says differently. And like, the kasha doesn't even start, because again, you're asking the kasha that in Kita Aleph, Shir Aleph of Moed Nevoichem, we've answered that kasha already. And people keep on doing this. It drives me nuts. And I don't know, I should say Lushan Hara and Gedolei Yidden here, but there's many people, and I'm including Gedolei Rishonim, including, I don't know, maybe the Rambam would say, including Amiruim and Tanuim and so on, that they were not mimchim in philosophy. Not a problem, just fact. They were mimchim in halacha, and even größer mimchim, and maybe bigger mimchim than the Rambam. But they're not mimchim when they say philosophy. They not even. It's interesting, but it's not worth thinking about too much. It's just not. Unfortunately, it's not. And this is a problem that leads me to certain questions. This thought, but I think that the pashtus is totally true, and there's no way out of it. I could give you names if you want. But for the most part, anyone that didn't write a serious methodological thing, or didn't, I'm not saying in Mechiv to do that, but we could see Metachet Vurav that he learned this, that he's thought about this a lot. It's just worthless what he says about different Nosim. It's just not. And you see it, it's so easy to see. You see it as Shivas and so on, and some of them are really, really good in certain subjects, and then they write up Sefer and Shofar, and it's like babyish. It's not, it's wrong. It's just not Ishkeit. No shaykhs to anything. You just didn't spend, beside it, it's not a problem. Did I say that if you're just a Shiva, you should never say a Shmi? Maybe you're so beside it, but you're going to say basically Ketigim level Tkias. And it's Bisha, so you shouldn't print those books, but whatever, they do anyways. And the same thing is true for the Shoinim, and that's why sometimes people say the Machloikas, the Rambam, and the... I don't even want to say who. But I should say who I think. No, Rashi does not even begin to be a Machloikas. The Taka doesn't even say anything. He just says the Pshat, that we could be Mechilik, we could, whatever the Nimshal from the Chimish is, could be the Nimshal of Rashi. I see why Rashi is interesting in this context. But someone like... so again, if you're someone like the Ramban, that it seems like he understands more or less where the Rambam is coming from, and he sort of tries to create a sort of shiliv or parallel system, then I'm taking you seriously for the most part. Also, I could also still claim that the Rambam is a bigger memcha in philosophy than the Ramban, and therefore if you take philosophy seriously, you should probably take the Rambam seriously and not the Ramban. But on the other hand, he understands it well enough to show you where it stimms to him and where it doesn't stim, so there's something going on. But some other people, they just have no idea what's going on. And they're really big Talmidei Chachamim. Should I say who? I don't know about the Rav. The Rav doesn't have a kibble, so he has different theories. Different, you see. We actually know what the Rav's theories were about these things from Kisvei Talmidav.
You say with the Aseres, you say with the arguing, someone's arguing with the Rambam?
No, probably you're going to say that I'm wrong. Ich weiß nicht. Different people that they argue, yeah, you say, the Chvais was the... By the way, the Ritva says this. The Ritva literally says this on the Ramban also. The Ritva in his book, Sefer HaZakoron, says the Ramban just didn't know certain basic philosophy stuff that the Rambam is referring to. And these kashas don't start to make sense. He says something like this. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. But if you read this very interesting book of the Ritva, it's called Sefer HaZakoron. Yeah, he was a Talmud of the Rashban. And the Rashba's Chassidim, they were not all stuck. The Rashba, when he asks Tashit on the Ram, generally I don't see that he's coming from anywhere. I'm totally not impressed by his nista. His nigla is great. The Rashba was really, really one of the greatest how do you say, Bali Alocha ever. Man, maybe even better than the Ramban in some ways. At least more clear. We know what he's saying for the most part. But when he says nista, not good. I told you when the Rambam says something, I know what he's talking about. I don't mean Nista, I mean Agoda. Yeah, even in Nista, there's Mikubulim that you see that they understand the questions, and some of them, they're just whatever. Okay, the Rashba says he knows Kabbalah, and he's not telling you it, so you get into this confusion, where he explicitly says he's not telling you what he really thinks. But yeah.
Which thing did Rambam said he upset about? Which
I don't know, a lot of things. I'm not getting into this. I'll show you. We'll learn maybe one time. Who else? For example, the kids at Atka. Let me get back to myself. Just a mushal. So that's the second point. Number one, a book that's oislik besigya masemis. There's no reason to expect it. It's not saying it's not shoyl the whole thing, and it's nothing. It's just no shaykhis. Okay, and the same thing. People that are oislik in certain sigas, there's no reason to expect them to know what they're talking about. Some of them do. There's some amazing people that could know more than one thing well. Like the Rambam knows both halacha and philosophy pretty well. Yeah? Everyone is moed that he knows both of them pretty well. Right? Shall is which one he knows better or which machlokes. Yeah, but everyone is moed that he knows two things pretty well. It's a big chiddush. He doesn't know astronomy very well. His astronomy is svach Maase. He's moed. Says whatever. He's not a big mathematician. Nobody ever said that Rambam was a great mathematician. Maybe he knew some math, but he wasn't Isaac. I'm just saying, he's not.
He's a doctor also.
His Dr. I is okay. No, but say that because Dr. I is old-fashioned. I don't know. It's hard to know. He did write on Dr. I. I don't think anyone can say this. Whatever. I'm not getting into this. In ancient, I don't know. Okay, I don't know enough about this to tell you. I don't know if anyone thinks he's a big, amazing doctor. I don't know how doctor. I'm not saying he was a bad doctor. If he, whatever the mystical doctor was in those days, but I don't think he's like a nigla in at least in Torah, inside the Torah and anything, he's doing something major. Like you can't learn it without him. In Dr. I, I'm sure you could be a doctor without. Even in those days, I'm sure you could have been a doctor without reading the Rambam's Dr. I. That's what I'm saying. He's an okay doctor, but I'm saying he's the biggest doctor to ever exist or anything. Or even like the biggest summarizer of Dr. I. I don't think even that is probably not true. But I don't know enough about his medical history, whatever, to tell you that. But I think it's my impression. But most people are just not. And now, for some reason, people expect to have authority on that, and it's funny. And therefore, when I see a machloikus about things, it's like, now there could be a machloikus, taka, what's more, even that machloikus is sort of talking past each other. What should it be always, in philosophy or in poetry? The poets are going to say poetry, and the philosophers are going to say philosophy. And how you can be machriya this question? It's not possible. Basically, everyone says that what they like is better. It's sort of useless. You just have to accept the limitations of human beings, including me, you're going to do whatever libem chofetz, and everyone is going to do what's libem chofetz, and I think we should stop with this a little bit with this hacking on Yenim's way. So my example for this is Balatani, right? Remember the Balatani said, they asked him why in his shechnurich paskins alpi halacha, and said that he says alpi kabbalah. Because the paskim say that he should go alpi halacha. He says, yeah, the paskim say that, and then kapulim things like. Like, what did you expect? You chat out such a tif about, and people like look at it like he said something weird. Like, what kind of halacha is this? Yeah, I mean, you thought that Mekabulim were like, yeah, they think that we should. Now you could ask, now there's a shtickle steer because halacha claims authority over everything. But of course, this is not a real steer, because not like the Tanya was matter about Kalpikabula. He's talking about there's a rich little Kleinigkeit, and of course, the Mekbulim think that these kind of things you could do Kalpikabula. There's nothing crazy about it. Of course, the Bali Alucha don't agree. Said it, so that's a machlok, because everyone is speaking from there. And since he is both, right, he's also one of the people that are managed to do two things good. One of the only people to manage to do two things well. They both be a big Baal Nigland, a big Baal whatever, Chassidus, Nista.
I think it was the early problem later.
You think he changed his?
No, I'm saying Shulchan Aruch. He said he was rewrite it. Right?
Yeah.
Started rewriting it. No, then he wrote it at a younger age.
Said that, at one period he was a very great Baal Nigland, and he managed to do both things in one lifetime. Maybe not at the same time, maybe he would have taken Bichoizer and do Kabbalah also there. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Okay, I'll put him, but he's saying this, that. Right. Okay, be more independent. Oh, makes sense. That's normal. But I'm just saying. So he's saying a very basic thing, and therefore it's very funny. Like, I don't know why people are so much symptom. Like, Lubavitch Rebbe says he should learn Lubavitch Chassidus Chabad. Yeah, thank you very much. If the Belzer Rebbe would say that, would be interesting. And Lubavitch Rebbe, of course, he says that. That's what he knows. That's what he does. And he should say that, but like, he should sometimes not really be sure that that's the only thing. I find that a little bit overdone. Okay, where I'm getting with this hack. It's not my hack. Okay, now back to where we are. Okay, now, where did I want to go with all of this? So it's the same thing. Now, in Torah, we'll look about the Chumash and so on later. But the parts of the Torah, at least the parts that are defined to be halacha, and this definition, we have to remember, like all definitions, was created in the Middle Ages. It didn't exist more or less before that.
What the word halacha?
Yeah, halacha is just a translation of halacha comes from the Gemara, the Dal Damash halacha, shalom, what it means, halacha, what the word halacha meant to them, right? Not sure what it actually meant. Law, halacha to be translated as law, basically. And this differentiation that there's such a discipline called halacha, which tells you what to do. This is a recent thing. It's not in the Gemara, right? Because the Gemara obviously is one big mishmash of random stuff. It's not in the Mishnah, which also has a bunch of aguda, what we call aguda, right? Of course, the Tanum do have the difference. They talk about halacha of aguda. We have to understand it's not so simple. It's more fuzzy. Yeah, they have this distinction. The medrash, halacha, aguda. It's hard. We have to figure out exactly. I don't know. I don't have a good clarity about this. Just saying that at least the way we conceptualize halacha as law. Let's translate it to English word law. Someone told me that I should start saying Mashirim only in Yiddish. When I say it in English, it sounds too goyish. Gets but halacha and these look law.
He probably only hears English from there.
No, like when you say these kind of things, halacha, law. Wait, what kind of modern guy is this? Like saying halacha. I'm trying to be clear. That's why sometimes halacha in the sense of the law, the laws of the Torah, right? This thing and there's parts of the Torah that are not law, right? There may be Misr, there may be Kabbalah, there may be Machshava, whatever they are. They're not that. This kind of clear distinction is a reason.
What's law?
What you must do. This is the ancient question. It goes back to Plato and people. Okay, the kids. I'm just saying the word. This kind of a concept is a recent, relatively recent. In other words, the first cipher that's only a cipher halacha is like the Rif. Probably not even the Rif, because the Rif does bring a bunch of agoda. Probably maybe the Rambam, not even. But understand? The Rif said them. I'm saying so. This is a relatively recent thing. Maybe the Shechur is the first. You could think of who is the first cipher that's purely halacha. No, but the Rambam himself puts a good in and so on. But he made that into halacha, so we can figure it out. Okay, ich weiß nicht. The Rambam doesn't pretend to be a cipher only of halacha. He's a cipher of Torah Shebal Peh, just the important parts. No. Of course, it's halacha.
What's it doing here?
What do you mean? The Rambam brings it noch as das. Why shouldn't the Shanoch bring it?
I know. I'm saying
it's a mitzvah. So exactly. So let's at least the modern language, the way we talk about the halacha, like you're saying, is recent, very recent. Really, it comes more. This language is halacha. Again, we had the word halacha as an old word from the times of Tanuim. I'm just saying that the concept of there's things that we really have to do. You see this what I mean? Really have to do. So what does this mean? What I don't even know what these things. No, and machshava you don't really have to do, or I don't even know what do you, when you say. You see?
Why is that less time?
I'm just trying to explain. No, yes. So I'll explain it, meaning to say this, right? When you say is this a halacha? This kind of question, right? Who was the first one to ask this question? This is the kind of research that you really need to do. Who is the first one to ask the question? Is it a halacha?
Is it is this la halacha? Is this?
Le halacha could mean something else. Could mean, is it miskim? Is it paskin like this? But is it a halacha or is it a good? Something like that. The first one to ask this question was pretty late. Maybe in the Rishonim, the Rambam, you have this kind of question. But that's also very late. I'm saying no. The difference between halachas and agudas is the hand, but like how, like it's this language. Like in other words, when you ask me this question, when you go say, why are you telling me you have to do tshuva? That's not the halacha. The halacha is that you have to blow the shofar. You see this kind of language. I don't know where we got it.
It's not machayev.
Ke'eli, let's talk. You could say that word machayev. Yeah, might be a good word. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it means. Not defined. It's not real. It's like really, and because you keep on asking this question. If I tell you that if you, according to the Rambam, again, we get confused with these two books. That's why I made my whole Agdama. If you'd say, if I tell you, according to the Rambam, and not the Rambam of Hilchos Tshuva, but the Rambam of Meir Nevarim, and the Rambam students say this openly. I told, if you don't do Tshuva, you're not. It's a waste of time blowing shofar. It didn't do anything. Right? And you tell me what it means. Is that halacha? It doesn't say Shulchan Aruch. Right? Now this kind of question, where does it come from? Who told you that saying Shulchan Aruch makes, like that's the real thing, and then there's other things that are less real? Like this whole idea, this whole distinction needs to be based on something, and I don't know what it's based on, really. Do you mean to say mitzvah? It's a mitzvah to do tshuva, just like it's a mitzvah to... Exactly, this language, what does that mean, this language of being yotze? What does it actually mean, being yotze? By the way, I have this real question. What does that mean, not yotze? What does it actually mean?
They don't use that.
Who?
I'm saying that however you mean. You mean him, I'm saying...
Maybe not, and maybe yes, but the Mishnah uses this language. It's a very old language, but what does it mean in the Mishnah?
You're not yotze the mitzvah, right? You're saying, what does he say?
Yeah. You want to see this Yitzchok? This Yitzchok is, he says you're a letz. I don't know. He says a lot of things. Exactly what he says about the shofar. To remember, I must have underlined language that I liked. Kavana told you are exactly if you didn't. So he also says that you have to do it even if you don't know the time, right?
Yeah, but that's so simple. Why? Because he's like hoping maybe one day you'll know, but he doesn't really think you have to do it.
Again, for the same reason, because you're not going to do anything otherwise. But I think that they very clearly think that it's not, it doesn't work, no?
It doesn't work. You say it doesn't work.
I don't know exactly the language. It's not, it doesn't do what it was supposed to do. Okay? I don't know, we can get to this, but I want to find exactly the language. The impression that you get is that you're basically... Yeah, I saw that. Because the impression you get is that it's not. It's nicht, no? What I mean to say is, that's what I'm getting, it's not that you did the halacha that you really have to do, and this you don't really have to. That's what I mean. That's not the impression you get from reading these books. You'll find exact illusion. You don't get the impression that losing that from losing the status and it's also good if you do tshuva, but it's not really you have to do it. You get the impression that it's the other way around. The really is on the tshuva or on the pneumias, and this you have to do also. And I was saying that when you ask this question, but what do you mean? It doesn't say Shulchan Aruch, doesn't say in the Torah. Well, soon we'll get to the Torah, but at least in the Shulchan Aruch, I don't understand the question to begin with. Shulchan Aruch is not a book that says in its cover what you really need to do. It says in its cover what the halacha is. And of course the halacha doesn't now we could ask another question, why the halacha doesn't demand this kind of things, or why exactly, and who exactly made cut up the halacha in this way. That's a serious question.
That's really
both
the
a historical
why
question.
Why isn't it that it should be like so?
And it is.
So basic. It should be like there should be every page on top of every page. I don't know how much that. But like it should be like much more.
But I think that this is a question.
You can learn Torah and miss it. That's what's like weird. You need some Baal Pnimis to come and tell you, it's just maintenance, it's not even care, which it doesn't hit you in the face. It's not the most. It's not.
Wait. So let's go like this. So the fact that the halachas furim don't say it is just because they're halachas furim and not anything else. So it's not a question. And the people that learn halacha and don't know about anything else, same thing. They didn't learn. It was the kasha. Now, so that's not a question at all. Now the question becomes about the Torah itself. That's really we have to go back to. We sort of go back to Chimish and maybe let's say Chimish and Perish Chazal because we're not Karuim, right? So Chimish and Perish Chazal, what do they think? Does the Chimish say that the most important thing is to blow the shofar and to make sure that the trio is not longer than the shvurim because otherwise it becomes into a tkiu or whatever funny Tkias came up with? Sorry. Tkias came up with this problem, right? That if the shvurim is too long, it becomes into a tkiu. Okay, whatever. If that is that,
that's a very good Talmudic problem.
Is that, of course, I understand that's a beautiful problem. If it comes off the cheshbon stimmt gewaltig. It's not, there's no mistake. I mean, the whole thing doesn't make any sense, but it's stimmt gewaltig. Because seriously, a shvurim, it becomes into a tkiya, like, I don't know, something doesn't add up in my mind, but we could learn that again and try to figure out what's going on. I don't know. I believe that something is going on, but I don't know what. It doesn't make sense to my mind. Okay, well, Kapunim, let's leave that problem. So this is internal to halacha. No, internal to halacha, right? Well, okay, not getting into internally to halacha, we could be misvakayach how important all the details are, but let's assume there's some details that are ma'akiv, right? Tkias a shir, and there has to be a certain amount of tkias and so on, and that's the Mishnah talks about, right? And you say the Mishnah says that this is ma'akiv. It's in the Mishnah, right? The Gemara and the cholik, and the Revuyin, you have to make the shrat and the shrat. 1 second. Wait. And then I come and I say the Rambam says the Reim is okay, the Reim is whatever. But twice couldn't call both in the Chumash and in the Gemara. I don't know where you got this from. By the way, Mitzvah Tkias is a good example. They all use this as a prime example for some reason. I don't know where you got this from. The Gemara Rosh Hashanah has just as many pages about the din of Rosh Hashanah and about whatever in Yunim they care about Rosh Hashanah as it has about the Tkias. You know that the whole thing that takes 2 hours in yeshiva to figure out if the Tkias Ayot is like 4 lines in the Gemara, literally.
If what?
This whole thing that I just how long did it's 4 lines and Tkias it's 40 lines already and besides that, but it's like Mamish. There's actually many more lines about the din of Rosh Hashanah and about the Tshuva and whatever, and it's actually not true. So and from the Gemara I don't know that you get the impression that halacha is more important than Aguda. Learn Rosh Hashanah Perek Aleph and there's about as much Aguda as halacha in it. Now I want to show you that.
No, I didn't say that. I remember saying I didn't say that more important. My question then was, and I'm saying it's years ago. My question then was that you see that the way it's done is like very important. It's not like it sounds like an ikr. That's what I'm saying. It sounds like it's an ikr. That's all.
But that's another question. You see, again, it's a question in both in pshat and what's the limshel of that pshat kili. In other words, let me try to just be clear. I want to show you how he talks about it. I think it's very. I don't have the answer. Just I think it's very nice to see how the problem. It's a serious problem. It's not so simple to say, but that's a good and not a lucha. And where you got this distinction from? What did I want to say? So, because we're getting into another question, which is like, we see some of the dinim and the prutim do is a trio like this, is a shvurim like that. So that somehow you assume, but it doesn't say in the text, by the way, you assume. So again, this is also anuch chetzonis that means that these differences are important. I don't know where you got that from. It could be that just people are learning. So learning, we try to understand everything as precisely as we could. So just like when we learn Agudah, we want to understand if Ma'avarish and Rishon is the first one or the second one. Yeah, very important thing. Yeah, man. Which Avaya do we start counting from? The third one? Not Ma'avarish, whatever. The ganze mach Sigya, by the way. I don't know why. There's a whole Sigya. And the Rishonim actually takes very seriously the Sigya. And the Rishonah and another place, I remember, in Yemei maybe. Right? If God counts the first Avaya or the second Avaya or the third Avaya, whole Machlokes. How do you even count Avayas? What does this even mean? I don't know. The Gemara takes it very seriously. And you say, therefore, the difference between the first Avayas and the second Avayas is what's important? I don't know. Lav Davke. It could be that this is just, if you do it the other way, there's a correct way, but I don't know that they take it so seriously being the correct way. I think that this is very important. This is a shal also, mamash shal in Alucha almost, not only a shal in the pshat of the Alucha. What does it even mean when we say lo yutzu? Lo yutzu da chayvas tefillah. I mean, tefillah is a good example. That's what I was thinking earlier when I was telling you. That I still don't, I don't know the teretz. I already asked you once in a different context. When it says, if you don't say Ya'alev Yivah, you don't say Melech HaMishpat, it's Machlokes Bav Yerushalmi if you're Yotze, okay? So what does it mean? What does this language mean? I know what tefillah is. Tefillah is Bebei the Eibishter should give us Tzedakah and Mishpat, and we finish off with the correct way, with a Nisach, man. Now, what does it mean when you say, now tefillah has a pe'ilah? I know what tefillah means. Tefillah literally means, and also in Halacha there's the Gedra of tefillah, by the way, you can't forget this, not only the Gedra tefillah is some kind of words that God listens to and hopefully answers, meaning does your request, right? This tefillah is shvach, that is just shvach and so on, but let's say tefillah is bakosha, right? Or even tefillah is shvach, God accepts the shvach, that's basically what it is, right? That's what it means, the yoitza. So now comes the Gemara and says, wait, since there is Aseres Tshuva and the minhag to be changed the nisach from Melech HaMishpat to Melech HaMishpat, right? That when you are yoitza, but a Melech HaKodesh, whatever. And therefore, if you say, Kaila Kodesh Aseres Tshuva, you're not yoitza. So with Kitzah, God shut his ears, and he only hears. What does it mean? It doesn't work. The shvach doesn't. Was minded b'chlal. What reality in the world does lo yutza translate to? I think this is a very serious question that you have to answer, and then it's just a good example of tefillin. You could answer it for other mitzvahs also. Because I understand what it means when you say shchita ze psila. It means don't eat that. That's what it translates to in the real world. In order to be matra behemoth, it has to have a certain shchita. And we have a kabbalah luch meshina that hilchas shchita. And if you do it wrong, don't eat it. It's nevela. And if you eat it, he'll give you malchus, right? So over there we know the meaning. And if you read the Rambam, he always defines things at the beginning. What you get, the onshim. And the reason he does it is not only because he's giving onshim, because this is the definition. When they say chayev, but it means you'll get this einish, you'll get and so on. That's what it means. In Hilchos Shabbos, when they say chayev, it means if theoretically. Now there's no bezn, but the bezn has to know this, right? We have to know the difference because we have to know if you should give you an einish. Maybe even bisman there's no skill, we'll give you some other einish. We'll give you Maase. That's the real life command. I know what it means. At least I know what in the world it corresponds to when you say shchita ze psila. I know what it means. Sekah psila. I know what it means. It means rebuild your sick. I know what it means.
So whatever you're supposed to say, I'm going to give you a question. Someone says, "Dear aunt, your apple kugel is delicious." And
no.
It's your sister. It's not your aunt.
No.
I gave the compliment. But you're not talking to. No, you can hear those.
So how?
You weren't talking to.
But this is a halacha.
You didn't.
Halacha. What does it mean exactly?
So
So you're saying something like this. So if your sister understands that you just had a slip of tongue, and you said the sister, like this is really how you think of it. So God doesn't. Something is missing in these whole halachas. I think actually halachas tefillah just means if you have to be mispal. I do also have a maase to make it. It means should you daven again. Now why should you daven again? It's a gittashale. Because it's saying you to say it right. But does it mean that God is not going to listen to your tefillah? No, I don't think it means that. No, I'm saying this is very important to me because really that's what tefillah means. That's the only thing tefillah could mean.
No, could be like there's such a thing like Koyd HaMokum, the king.
I'm asking, okay, but this is pretend. I'm asking, but I just want to get at that. The halacha obviously doesn't capture the truth here. Let's just understand, right? If I eat, it's not true, right? It's not, at least it doesn't capture the entire reality that tefillah is really mostly about that. I'm asking that tefillah is it's ikra tefillah, etzma tefillah is tefillah, man. Whatever it is, whatever, however you understand ikra tefillah. And then there's dinim, a ritual like tekasi, like you say, it's a past. Since we have hilchas tefillah, since we're going to tell you how to daven, yeah, you should be masking man, you should say the certain language, and so on, right? But that all those halachas don't really capture the gifat tefillah. They don't capture it at all. In other words, the tefillah not totally according to that. God will listen probably to tefillah said shaloik halacha also. And this might even true even in halacha. Hilchas tefillah is actually a very good example of halacha that still has these loopholes of gifat tefillah. Like tefillah is not dova like loy mechaven. If you're not mechaven, you're really up your halacha. You're not supposed to daven and just whatever. And so on, right? And Tosfos again ruined it for us. But
trying to get out of halacha. You're trying to say there's something that
I'm trying to show you that halacha is very obviously, at least when we talk about Avodas Hashem, right? Halachas that are just, I know what it means. Chayev puta, you should pay, you should not pay. Okay. Beside I know exactly what it means, right? But take halachas that are about Avodas Hashem. All halachas about Avodas Hashem never capture Avodas Hashem itself. Capture in the sense of, like Tarizal would say, malbishit, right? I like this image, right? It's only malbish part of it, maybe the vak, weiß nicht. the God of Hashem is always out of halacha. And by necessary, nobody's, I don't think anyone's cholik on this. In other words, let me just get to this. In other words, the brisker are totally messed up. Because when the brisker comes and says, if you, for example, this would be an example, when some brisker would come and say, if a yid, and I heard people say this, I don't know if the brisker who said this, but if you're mechaven by kol chamiru, you cry like the square Rebbe that your Yitzchok should be burnt up, and you forget to be mechaven that your of chumetz should be burnt up, then you're not Yitzchok. Then you're a bad Jew, I guess, apparently. But if you do fakir, if you're some trick in a guy that you're in zin that chumetz, this is a bad example because whatever chumetz, I'm not convinced that the nimshel is the Yitzchok, but let's say I want the brisket to be worse than the square. Chumetz is a bad example because it's a shtickle and nimshel ruchak. If you talk about the Tkias, it would be a better example, right? Get back to Tkias where they are, because chumetz. The whole idea, I had a whole shtickle Torah that I'm not convinced that chumetz is really Yitzchok. Maybe it's a good thing chumetz. Okay. So, but let's assume that that's an nimshel, right? It doesn't really matter because I mind Tkias, right? But I'm saying if a guy hears Tkias and the shvurim didn't work and the Tkias was tzilang and the whatever, and he did Tshuva, he actually did something very real. That's what I want to get at. He did something very real. Very real. Now, is he going to come after davening and say here again? Maybe that Uv will say make it again because you did something totally wrong. It's enough that it's ma'akif. It's actually there's no such a real thing. But let's assume that it's possible to ruin your Tkias enough. Come on, it's not really possible to ruin your Tkias. That should be pushed like how. Man, if mamish don't know how to blow, it's kind of not really possible. But let's assume that it's possible. For some reason, only in the Litvish shields they have to ever blow over something. I don't know. Kamat, I'm all matzah, I'm saying. Depends how many nerves you have. It's the chazimah that it's not real, right? Nachmum, according to Rash, whatever. No, so what I'm saying is, you really did something very real. That's what I'm trying to say. It's the Rebbe have this idea that you did something real. Maybe it's a nice thing to do Tshuva, but Shaykhs, no, there's a real part of Tkias, which is Mekem Tashil, Mekach Tzchem Avayntem, Tzuk Tzayach, whatever, all these things, they're very real. Now the halacha might not capture that, might not define that, and it doesn't have to. It doesn't even pretend to. I don't know who got this idea that it pretends to define that even. I'll give you another example, right? Remember I saw. You did like it?
Yeah, I got a quote because the Prussian skip Lamed Tzech and everything. They want to get Zrizis, get to the Mitzvah schneller.
No.
So this was a new. Viele Gedere für uns, was auch permanent haben, an Zukunft zu das.
Ah, yeah. But he probably understood that Lamed Tzech is a chunut yom chaven litzes, no?
He did it.
Okay, so maybe the brisker wasn't such a typish.
I went to his Nachum Berg, he told me the brisker Robert is saying these meters.
No.
He's like the ganze bench. He's like every single He's like every single meters.
Okay, so it's more varme than I'm imagining. Okay, I'm just saying this kind of language, or someone's. I saw Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was mad that someone told him Hashem the brisker over or something that was kocht sich bei der Altkiel, Schmoekel Scheife bei der Chweizus bei der Ashayotze also kochen gesagt. Rabbi Shepher said that?
No, it wasn't.
Who?
I think it's someone from the
But Shlomo Zalman was mad. He said he's ruining his Tkias. But this is a good example that it's okay. Kitze. So maybe there's a machlokes zwischen the Salavatchiks. Ich weiß nicht. Okay, whatever the Maase is, the word is the word is that something according to this thinking, and everyone seems to say hat katane, and hat nicht katane, not mitzad. Makes sense. So maybe he has this interpretation. And okay, so hatane, you understand? But I don't think the Tana is even true. Even halachically, I don't think it's true. And I think that halacha b'chlal, this is internal to halacha, a certain argument which we could argue about, right? Like why is everyone so sure that when it says in the Mishnah shir tkiya, what it means? I mean, we know that it's not a minimum shir, whatever. Okay, I'm not getting into this, but it means that that's the definition of a tkiya. Just like shir chila, nobody thinks that that's the definition of a chila. Everyone eats more than the shir, right? I'm just saying, there's certain forms of how things, and the halacha, I don't think the halacha was ever meant to capture the point of it. So they ask me, when you don't achieve, but you're not yotze. Yes, but that's because halacha is not the entire thing. It's not doesn't capture the entire reality of Tkias Shofar, the Hilchas Tkias Shofar. I actually think often the other way around. I think that halachas are meant to give you the most minimum thing to work with. All right. The great example of this is Hilchas Sikah, right? Halacha Sikah is basically like some kind of 4 tefachim on 2 sides with 7 tefachim and like gluvid and chveiz was the Sikah. And they a doll could eat there. It's not realistic. The Mishnah didn't think that you shouldn't have a bigger sikher, right? Why does we have this halacha? It's because we have to get at the minimum. Why do we have to get at the minimum? Because it's a faket. Because what I'm trying to get because it's okay. But there's already halacha. I don't know why I keep on talking about halacha. Because it's makes it more flexible, not because it makes it more bediek. I think that the reason why halacha has become so weird is because they're trying to be maximally flexible. Exactly, I'm trying to say pink vaket. This is the only thing that's ma'akev. The only thing is mamash zayin al zayin. The rest, do what you could. You're free to do yourself. You understand? The only thing that's ma'akev in the Tkias is that the Tkias should be longer than the shvurim, whatever it says in the Mishnah. That's the only thing that I care about. Make whatever song you want, whatever to do whatever you want. That's the pshat Mishnah. Just the opposite.
It should be geschmack at Tkias.
Yes, it doesn't say you shouldn't only do this. It says this is the only thing you have to. I care about. And less than this is nishgit. And obviously, everyone understands this by sikher, right? Everyone understands that on the Maase sikher is with 4 walls, right? I'll be a look at the 4th wall is useless. Not really. Like, but say that if the hosnish, of course, it makes it easier. These halachas make things easier, not harder. For some reason, in avoidance, for some reason, people think it's there to make things harder. I don't know why. It's always look at the minimum. Like, in other words, without halacha, we wouldn't law at all. Like it would be so minimal that's a gornish.
We feel like it doesn't have to follow something, so it makes it like it's complicating things.
Right, but I think that this is making it simpler. Of course, the minig to do the tkis and the nisach that we do is a very old minig. We should change it, although maybe you should try. But like this whole mama, it's very old. Okay, with kis, something is wrong with the whole mama that kis. I don't know what, but let's not get into this. Epis is funny. I don't know. Epis is fun. Nicht das teure gemeint. Ich weiß nicht, was das gemeint. If you read the Pusik, it doesn't sound like that. I don't know how it sounds, but not like that.
You're saying don't you just go up to and blow Geschmack at Tkias and you
Ne blow Geschmack at Tkias. I don't know. Something is Epis. Ich weiß nicht was. For some reason it's
mechanical or what's bothering you?
No. I don't know what. It doesn't. Maybe I'm just have the wrong imagination. Maybe I should switch my imagination. Maybe it is more relative. Ich weiß nicht. It doesn't. I don't know. You read the psikim, read Shofar, the psikim of Shofar, and tell me if it reminds you of the Tkias in your shield. If you wouldn't have known that they have something to do with each other, tell me if it reminds you. I don't know. It doesn't remind me.
That's what I'm saying. You need like it's like squeaky sounds. It's not like a whole
either because it's squeaky or because ich weiß nicht was.
Squeaky or it's broken up.
Epis is wrong. I don't know what. I'm telling you, I don't know. It could be that halacha is defined it too much. I don't know why. But this is noch hashmis, and we're not into this. That's already halacha mamish. Something. Maybe it's just because you go in the labs as a Litvish inspired shields where they care somewhat too much about halacha. Could also be maybe in the more like. All over is like this. I'm telling you, it's very old. This thing, I know, and I was also like this. They're very like, I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know. No.
Maase, it looked like the guy told me like it felt like it was Kavana, but the Maase wasn't in the Shofar. It was in the Makri. It was like a little, you know.
He used to blow. Okay. I could put him. Ich weiß nicht. Okay, that's another question. There's something. Okay, but not getting into this question. Back to go. So I'm just trying to say, it's not clear when you say that halacha says only how long the Tkias is beside it, because number one, like I said, the halacha might be just defining a minimum. Like, don't go lower than this. The schwachste does this, but not that the starkste does only that. And that's one child. We do that. We do 100 carless, which is totally whatever. Most people do 100 carless, and it's just made up. It doesn't say. There's not really any chayim why halachically you need it, right? Everyone agrees to that. Harem is not because of the remus we do it, right? So I understand. So it's not. You see that even the minig agrees with me that it's not a minimum shir. Yeah, but that's I didn't figure out if it's because he had a chash or because he liked the blow. I don't know. I also found the minig. I try to sometimes do this minig that there's an old minig to blow by in the morning before davening, because that's really what was according to some pshat. That's really what you should do. But kitze, so again as a minig mekabulim, I think to blow by Elas Shachar. Mita, I think mita bracha. I'm not sure. Well, we have to make a. What are you gonna do? Not make a bracha and what? Yeah, mita bracha, and then. There's anyways more people. The machta bracha shil anyways for the people that came then. But I did this a few years by myself.
You're doing the mitzvah yourself.
Yeah.
And
then you got to shil. You care what's the problem? But then there's some people that said it's not all gal. Chan gets I'm like it's like other. Pikabula is said that the Ramchal says you should do it. The Ramchal has Kavanas for it. He says you should make the same Kavanas, whatever. But he always has this excuse. But the Pikabula doesn't stem before davening. Alpieri Pshat Alpira at least. But no, so Alpialuch if Chazal were talking to do it after Shachris and being smart in the Chazal. It's a bit man. Okay, I'll put him. That's back to. I like it because of this idea, because like it's we can use it as an alarm clock. You understand? But nachli and nine. Okay, but kids, you have to get back to the tachlis. Tachlis is. Also, because why would we let them wait? If you go to Chassidus Shilda, it's Tkias 2:00 in the afternoon. Doesn't make sense. If you daven v'sik, and then it comes at the same time anyway. Mm-hmm. So if you say, what the Rebbe, what this is the most thing that how much that we said, the Shabbos of all going to live, and that's like the Ikke. What? That's but you have to wake up early and make breakfast the first two days. He's trying to bring out that the Toik of Shabbos is not when it's ebbing, but it's ebbing out. Okay, that's line. Okay, I'll put him. No problem. The Maase wird der Gäste schalt, noch mehr geocht für alle Juden. Shine.
Once a year, I think that he's right. I think that's maybe I was his point. I know. Like once a year, we have a richtige Shabbos.
Besides, you eat breakfast. I okay, whatever. Then do the minute Chabad, eat breakfast in the morning, and then shall she. This is the seed after Shachris, after Misif. I'm going to just find out. I'm going to just say, no. A kid, sir. Okay, come here. Okay, let's go back. Let's continue.
Before Shachris. You have to Vinchan, Dalton. What do you Vinchan?
Ich weiß nicht, ich bin nicht ganz Lebres. No.
Then you must be to the thing. But before Shachris, you can't do it. So you can't do the whole.
Why can't you do it?
Because you have no idea. You're not in the smell of a chalal.
Okay, so let me again about it. Okay, so I want to get back to the Mishnah. If you look in the Mishnah, actually, I just wanted to show you this, and I'm not the first one to notice. And I said that Kavana told you to notice this, which is nice for me because it shows you that it's real. Why? Because we think that people that lived 1,000 years ago or whatever are more real than people that live today. But I could put him. Mishnah Rosh Hashanah says literally.
The back you go, the more real they were.
The less confused. That's usually. The Mishnah Rosh Hashanah. By the way, if you read Mishnahs Rosh Hashanah, you get, I don't know where you can't get the impression that there's only halachas and agudas, okay? The first two Mishnahs, okay, the first one is halacha, the second one is totally aguda, okay? And then we jump into halachas kiddush achayidish, right? For tuprokim, basically. Yeah? And then we start talking about what kind of shofar we need. In the middle of Perek Gimel. Very weird. The Bezin should be the end of Perek Gimel. I never understood this. You understand this?
Why it starts over there?
Yeah, this should be the Chalik Perek Bez. Should start Kol HaShofar. It would make sense. I don't know what happened. Has that it?
Just 3 weeks ago, I was talking to Zvertan about this.
No.
He has a whole... I'll show you.
Okay. Then we talk about what the shofar is. Okay. And then it says like this. Read what's going on, because that's what's a mitzvah kavana, which is really the subject that we have to get to if we're talking about here, right? So then, it says, the guy tells, okay? The Mishnah says like this, that the Keil Techabar, after the Hirsch calls shofar, and then V'chain, very interesting, the V'chain, Shaykh is the two halachas, V'chain, Misha Ovel, Achore Bezek Knesses, V'shema Kol Shofar, Im Kol Megel, okay? Im Kim V'libel Yutz, V'im Lav Lo Yutz, okay? And then the Mishnah seems to make this into a medrash. It says, Afal Pisha Zeh Shema V'zeh Shema, Zeh Kiven Liba V'zeh Lo Kiven Liba. This, I'm reading Prat Mishnah, this line is meaningless halachically. It just said it already. Im Kiven Liba Yutz, Im Kiven Lo Kiven Liba Lo Yutz, right? The Mishnah says, what do you learn from this? Two people could do the same thing. This is Pshat Mishnah. There's no way to out of this Pshat, and there's another Mishnah that says mamash the same thing. Braise. Me ken machen dieselbe Sach. Both of you heard the Megillah, but one was Yoitz and one was Itz. And what's the difference? Ma benaim. Ze kiven libe, ve ze lo kiven libe, right? What?
Megillah says here, no, the same thing. Someone's passing away from Mr. Knesset.
The same halacha. Now the Gemara has a whole diikim on this Mishnah, right? That we learn from this Mishnah Tzrichas Kavana, or is it talking about somebody from which even Lamando Mitzvah Tzrichas Kavana? It's not Yotze, right? That's the din the Gemara of here and Megillah and all the places in Beruchas, right? But the Pshat Mishnah, and then you go on to the next Mishnah, right? And you look in the next Mishnah, you see it says Ashtikl Drusha. This is one of the Mishnahs Tkias Shofar Drusha, by the way. I told you, remember I made a good Shalpais? I want to make a good Drush Tkias Shofar. So this is the Drush Tkias Shofar Mishnah, okay? And it's a Shtikl Mechilta in Pashas Boy, by the way. It says, Vayik Ashir Moshe Yitvago V'Yisrael. V'chidish Moshe Ois Melchome. Aloi Melch. Kalt Moshe Mistak Melam. V'shav Nizlish. Skar Malav Ein Neiflim, right? So this Mishnah is a very Rambam-istish Mishnah, by the way. Oh, you weren't very freeze. Mamash Shtikl Rambam. It says literally the Moshe Rabbeinu was mispal. Even without saying it magic, it was mispal. Yudah means mispal, Pashtas. And when he's mispal, and then when he's shach, he's nicht mispal. They go over like, what's hard to understand? Give him the Mishnah. What?
The hands, like they hold up his hands.
Okay, so it makes it sound more magical. But Kim the Mishnah says, this is just a sign. Moshe Rabbeinu's hand are a big up sign. It says, look at a kick in Himmel. It's emotional. Now, does the Mishnah understand the Amish? For 1 second, they were mistakel kappa shemayim, and for the next second, they did less shivas, they lost. I don't even think it means that. It's the whole thing is emotional. Yeah, the chinuch meimish, ella. The man just don't stack kappa male. We love hoine moikim. Okay, so there's two rayos, and if you look in the Mechilta, he also talks about the dam paisach and amile with a similar way. Two rayos that the Kavana, you see how this is the smichas, right? Was shaykh is this Mishnah? How did we get from this Mishnah to this Mishnah? We just told you that if you mechavam, that's what makes the action. Not the same thing with Yudam Moshe is a mitzvah. The Asan Nachash Nachosh was literally a mitzvah. God told him make a Nachash Nachosh. Look, the Mishnah, the mitzvah is not going. It's not enough. I want to take another level, right? And it's not enough that the Mishnah is saying that Moshe Rabbeinu's magical hands is not the only doing it. You have to do tshuva. Moshe Rabbeinu's magical hands were a mitzvah. Was mitzvah's tefillah. And Moshe Rabbeinu's Nachash Nachosh was definitely a mitzvah. The Rebbeinu Shalom told Moshe, make a Nachash Nachosh. Voyu kar ruch shechosh. Look, the Mishnah, that could work. It's not pusik. Asal Nachash Nachosh. Voyu kar ruch shechosh. V'ruch chai. Says the Mishnah, no. How could you understand that? That makes sense. Elamai. It's a big sign. I was the sign have to be B'tziris Nochash. Why can it be? It's not a sign. It's just a big arrow to look at the hive. Kashav Maase. Maybe if they miss those Aseres. But the Mishnah doesn't seem to be worried about this, right?
Before the Kavan Lib is Zach. You're saying the Mishnah before is also like that?
It seems that the Mishnah, obviously Pshat, okay? Now that's all. Next Mishnah is very back to Halacha, right? It seems very clearly that the next Mishnah is about Tkias and Shabbos. That's the next part. It seems that the Mishnah very clearly connected Kavuna of the Shabbat Lim Lavim Sheshmayim with the Kavuna that is Kavunas Lutzas Mitzvah, whatever it means. At least the Gemara understood this to be connected to the Sigi of Mitzvah Snichas Kavuna, right? Yeah?
Kivan Levi does not mean to be out to the Mitzvah. Is that what you're saying?
Afal Pish is Eshem. Ich weiß nicht. Ich sage nicht gut nicht. No, I didn't say that. I said the Mishnah sees an association between these two things. The minimal thing, Tana. So we can think what the Mishnah thinks by Kivan Levi. Obviously, if you look in the Gemara obviously does not talking about doing Tshuva or anything. The Gemara is talking about knowing that you're doing a mitzvah.
You know, there is like a shul Gemara with Zichron. It's the Gersa and that.
About?
On top of
in Rosh Hashanah? Here's Rosh Hashanah. Which blot? I don't remember which page it is. No, I'm in the beginning. I was looking for something else. But which page is it? It's later.
The one before this. This on
yeah, but no, it has to do with the Gemara has a tzad that Tkias is more chomer than than
That's from that.
than whatever the other thing was. No, than
Right,
matzah. Matzah.
Right.
No, but it could be that the Gemara means like the Rambam, that there's the Rambam that called Paskins like this. That's the difference between matzah and shayfer. Mama passing the matzah yoytzish kana hena. That's what the Beged Mishnah and others understand. But shank and shayfer as Indian shell dibber. That's something like that. You have to. I understand. What does Raja say? It's only a tzricha. So why does Rav have to say it both? That's what you mean. The Aleph goes to the pusik. It's going to.
So when they talk like Zichron Trua means
Binan Tkias Kavana Salev Binan Veleke. I learned this. I understood that it has to do with someone brought the Rambam Maase makes this chilik. That's the funny thing, right? The Rambam Maase makes this chilik. Okay, you look in the red face. He's talking about Kavana. The Gemara seems to confuse all of different Kavanas into one thing. Kavana betfila, Kavana it's all the same thing.
What are you doing on the side?
I don't know. I'm just looking at it. No, this is a Chachmas thing, a new thing. But it's a akapunim. Yeah, no, okay. Me yesh la aniche, but we could. Yeah, but the Maase like this is okay. But the Maskuna, there's no difference between shayfer and matzah. So I weiß nicht. It's only the Maase the Ram has this difference. Nobody knows why, man. Okay. What do I want to say? The Mishnah at least is an association between this mishpat zek afal pisha zeshma v'zeshama zek kiven liba v'zela kiven liba v'kiyoytze b'zek ili. It doesn't say v'kiyoytze v'gashir mashiyada. Otherwise, there's no reason. And the Mishnah seems to me meaning to say that kiyoytze b'zeh shoyfer v'chi shoyfer like the b'meh b'shoyfer. No, of course the shoyfer is kedai shichav shabdi liba l'mashamayim. I just want to show you that there's another Gemara, not a Mishnah, but it's another Gemara that literally they seem to say something similar. There's another Mishnah that's where you know, right? That says something very similar, and the Tkias already connects it if it's the same thing as Mitzrich's Kavana. And Rabbi Yochanan and Hodius, Ma'adich Siv Geshem Darki Hashem Tzdikim Melech Mavikoshlim Kosh Mushel Lefnei Bnei Soli Peschaim Echad Achel L'Shem Mitzvah Echad Achel L'Shem Shechile Gasa. Right? And then the Shlukas Dingsach, because he says what do you mean? He ate a Pesach. He had a different mushel. And Vagapunim, okay, then there's machlokes, but Rabbi Yochanan seemed to say maybe this is Tulian Mitzrich Kavana. I don't remember. Was it Rasha? L'Shem Achile Gas, L'Shem Mitzvah. L'Shem. Where? They put it under the page. Yeah. Like it's so.
That's probably where Rashi wrote it.
Yeah, so the Gerasha says, the Gemara sagt that there's two people doing the same thing. One is Niskav L'Shem Mitzvah, Tzadikim Elchbam. One is not Niskav L'Shem Mitzvah, is Poishim Yikosh Libam. L'Shem Achile Gasa, right? And L'Shem Achile Gasa means Shlel L'Shem Mitzvah. And Zeitos Shluker says that he's Yoitze, but he's not a Mitzvah and a Mifcher. I don't know what exactly that means. Because it has to do with how you understand the Achile Gasa here. We have to be mindful. That's looking what I'm just showing you. It seems to be saying the same thing. The Gemara and the Mishnah seem to have a similar idea that a mitzvah needs kavana, and you could be mamash arusha. It's very weird. Pushim yikash libam. So you could say it's like a shtickle machlokes rebrech and shlokash if he's a peshay, if he was yoytzer, if he was not yoytzer. It's not. In other words, let's go back to where I was. In other words, if you ask a halacha person, I'll tell you mitzvah tzrichs kavana has no shaychus with kavana sari or with kavanas harambam. Because mitzvah kavana is a halachic thing. You have to be mchavan lutzas. Then I'm showing you that the Mishnah didn't really agree with this sharp distinction, at least not b'derech haguda, at least enough that the Mishnah, it made sense for the Mishnah to connect the drushas of Yirem Moshe Yehuda to Kiven Liba. It was like Kiven Liba. The focus as I feel. Similar with the matzah, that if you're mechavan l'shem achila gasa, in other words, you could eat, at least according to Rabbi Yochanan, you could eat a shtickle carbon Pesach, and you're just like a Chassidus would say, as guess now grab a stickel fleisch, you're a pesher. Let's forget about all halacha de gekir where you're yotza or you're not yotza. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. Carbon Pesach esmenish l'shem grab a stickel fleisch. Estes l'shem mitzvah. It's a different kind of thing. It's supposed to remind you Tzias Mitzrayim. The Maase is not enough. The Gemara literally is saying this, that the Maase is not what's machshana, not what's machriya, it's the kavana. Now we could be mchoike if there's a minimal kavuna of mitzrich's kavuna, or if it's also the tshiva and so on. The Mishnah seems to say the kavuna of l'shabbat li'ebel navil n'shamayim. At least this the good of the Mishnah. Now, of course, I think that these things are not even such a steer in Chazal's way of thinking. I wanted to show you that he says this literally, okay? Reb Yaakov Anatoli in Zan Seife, he said this diak. And he said, if you read, no, here's this gewein, so noch Hashiv and letzte Woche schon. He said, in his Seife, in the beginning, yeah, he's Marich, he's Marich that if you look on page 28, by my pages, no, a little before, page 27, okay? He starts with Asher Yemei, right? That's his pasuk. And he says that people ask him, and he quotes the Gemara. He says the Gemara says the Achmuna Matiki and so on. He says you don't read even Mishnayos when you ask such a kasha, because the Mishnah literally says that this thing. It says what does it mean, and he gives a pshat. So his pshat is he's ready. He's going. His whole shtickle is to prove that you need to have tamim for the mitzvahs. You need to do the tamim and not just be the. You see later where he starts to worry. Bali Talmud, because the people that learn Gemara were asking him from this Gemara of the Kavana Matiki, and he has a pshat on it later. He says, "What do you mean?" He says it's fetish in the Mishnah, and he says, "The hayesh sofek read." And hayesh sofek sheshnei yenim ma'alish nichtav Mishnah ma'ayin zeichelem beGemara kashav Mishnayos. The Gemara doesn't even say anything. It doesn't have any connection. Why do you think it says here? Is there a suffix that it says here? L'rai that Shofar is the Shiva. Of course, he added in the word Shiva. It doesn't say in the Mishnah. This is the Rambam's move of the Maase. The Mishnah doesn't say the word Shiva. It says Meshab Stephen Levim Sheshmaim. And he says, of course, what does this mean? It means it's gezindigt. That's what the Nuchash Kaim and Yud Shiva. That's the Rambam's. I'm not saying it's against what it says, but it's putting in a different word already that he's doing. But he's saying with Farish that it's. That's the pshat, and then he brings more rayas and marich, and he says that the Gemara Rechmuna Apteki doesn't mean this, and bekitzer, and Arv Sutn obviously Tim also means doing tshiva, because Sutn is the Yatzahara, and so on.
And you saw the next thing over there in Nema, the next paragraph,
With?
I'm in Gemara. Just I couldn't understand that when I was looking at
No. Lama Toikin Amarin?
Oh yeah, that one, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Because he quotes a different Gemara. The Gemara says that L'osed Lowy will know Tamet Torah.
Right, you think, but is that cooler between Tzorich HaGadol of Torah?
Shova Begolas Mitzvahs Nishon Lemada. This is Gevarin. So therefore we have to. So he says that the Gemara literally associates. Right, he brings a pusik from the Kieshal Chabencha that we said that we have to know the time. Yeah, he's saying what he's saying is. No, I think what he's saying is that the Gemara associates with the Ge'il knowing Tamei Torah. So he's saying, yeah, because Gulis means that the mitzvahs become an astonishing mood. We don't know why we do the mitzvahs. And when the Sheikh comes, we'll know why. So in other words, part of the Gulis is doing mitzvahs without the reason. I think that's what he's trying to connect things.
No.
So now he's just proving that the Gemara doesn't hold that you shouldn't look for a tam. Nebuch, we don't know the tam, that could be. But not looking for tam lechatchila can't be, because there's a different Gemara that says that we should look, that we will know the tam, and that you get schar. Yeah. Is get schar. Yeah. And it's very important because we know, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. Right. So what is pshat? This right. He's saying that it's important to be megalas Hamet Torah, because otherwise, and again to him Hamet Torah.
This thing is Kiva says this whole thing. Everyone it's always bothers me.
Why?
He's coming saying his own things. It's like a very interesting zach.
Why?
He doesn't say it in the Torah. Like it's a whole new Josh. He's saying this.
Yeah, he connects it always to it. It's interesting. Kiva is there was next lepande, so.
It's like Kiva is the Russia.
Yeah, I'm saying that's what I'll should say. Clearly, like on the Shitusa kind of Indian.
Now I'm tell you, ask him anything. I don't have time to do. Ask him what's the plan to tell you. Like, pumped over here asking me to tell you.
He's giving a pshat on all the mitzvahs I'm Adam Maase. It's not pinked over here. Man, you want to know what he thought about all the other mitzvahs? Maybe he had a pshat on them also. I hear. Gets he connected to Rebbe Akiva, ich weiß nicht. So I'm just showing you that Kavana, where did I get to? Yeah, this was all to answer your thing, that it doesn't say Kavana. It does say in the Mishnah Kavana. It literally does. It actually seems that the Mishnah is interested in adding Kavana into things. Yeah, and now you have to be ma'ayin the next step. In other words, what is the kavana? That already, I'm not so sure about the Indian from that he's so sure that it means tshuva, because that doesn't actually say in the Mishnah. Of course, in his reading, it's obvious, and if you think about everything in his way, it could be more minimal, right? But you could say something more minimal. In other words, like the mechilta that the Mishnah doesn't bring, but the mechilta and the hemshich of the thing says, what is this? The damal amashke was time is that's mechape that live hamashches lind was this. How does this work? And he says no, it means the schis. Dam pesach v'dam mid. They didn't have a schis, so they I to give them a schis. So in other words, you read it more like not als heiche timtza that you should do tshuva. That's going to be mu'uri to do tshuva. That doesn't say in the Mishnah. It says and you could sort of read it and Tkias Shofar or anything like that. That doing the mitzvah, that's already l'shabbat liba lavim shoshamayim. Understand? Because you're doing a mitzvah l'shem shamayim. It doesn't seem from the Mishnah that they have the concept of like Kavana Tkias. That the Kavana of Tkias Shofar is to do tshuva. Maybe the Kavana of Tkias Shofar is to do a mitzvah l'shamayim. Maybe that's more like zekivan liba. What's zekivan liba? Doesn't say zekivan. That was a tshuva. The Kavana Liba is doing a mitzvah with it. So just the concept, just the kavana of doing a mitzvah is maybe enough. I don't see that. It's not clear that the Mishnah would tell you that. Understand? It could be that when the Gemara connects it to mitzvah strichs kavana, what I'm trying to say is that it could be that mitzvah strichs kavana is literally the sigya of if mitzvahs have to be lishma. Not like Baal Halacha would say that it's no shaykh, it's just sigya of if you have lafikim misasik, kind of, or different levels of misasik, not knowing what you're doing. And then you would say, but kavunas and avodas Hashem are separate, because that's assuming that avodas Hashem and doing mitzvahs are two different things. But maybe in the Mishnah's view, they're the same thing. Maybe to the Mishnah, doing a mitzvah for God, that's what the kavuna of, maybe the ikar kavuna of mitzvahs is anyways.
Doing the mitzvah with
Shemarti v'nasret, yeah. Maybe the mitzvah, that's asher b'dalev. So it's not clear to me that you have to chitz from them do Shabbat Alev like he's for sure that Shibud Alev means doing tshuva, means something different than just doing mitzvahs. That I don't think is the Chazal's opinion. I think that for the most part it seems that Chachamim seem to assume that doing mitzvahs themselves is a avodas Hashem. But of course you have to do it lishma, and therefore the whole sigi of mitzvahs.
What's the teichen of the mitzvah?
There's no teichen. It's out of Ben Sabrias. Maybe they literally think there's no teichen. Lav dafka there's a teichen. The teichen is to remember God, to do God's mitzvahs. It's not clear. We don't see Chazal being worried about the teichen. Even the Rabbi Akiva's memory doesn't say more than that.
So you don't see in Chazal the Rambam?
No, not at all. Even Rabbi Akiva's thing we don't see. Even Rabbi Akiva's thing doesn't say more than that, right? It actually says there's a mitzvah and there's some reimes in each mitzvah. Rabbi Akiva's reimes is not even in the tshuva. Rabbi Akiva's reimes is an ayim pesach. He bring oimel al dezal mi mevorach do ayim shayches. It's just doing a mitzvah and connected to this, but he doesn't say it. Understand what I'm saying? To Rabbi Akiva, it seems that the Messias mitzvah gives you a schus that God should grant you the tefillah and so on. He doesn't seem to have the inyan pruti of the oime being connected to the tefillah or something like that. It's just a mitzvah that he's showing you that it's connected. That every time you get the brucha b'schizeh. What I'm trying to say is that I feel like there's a case to be made. I don't know if this is against what I was saying all the time, but there's a case to be made in the way of Chazal's thinking, which they don't have the separation of like avodas Hashem doing. The Rambam doing tshuva means something very specific. It means becoming better. There's no way out of it. It means exactly what Aristotle meant when he talked in ethics about becoming better. It doesn't mean like of course it's 1,000 prutim, malas amidus, malas tichlias. You could become better in many different ways, but it just means that. And of course, that itself means avodas Hashem and so on. In other words, and therefore, mitzvahs can only be a sign for that. See, this gets back to where we started in a certain sense, right? Mitzvahs can only be a sign for that. It's la'oder esalev to get better, right? For Chachamim, it could be mitzvahs are a good thing to do by themselves. It shows that you're obligated to God, for example, in the most basics. And not even it shows, that is. Understand? And it could even be that Rabbi Akiva is actually going in the other direction. In other words, Rabbi Akiva says, something like that, right? Below Shofar, right? In other words, everyone knows the pshat of Shofar. Let's assume that the Pusik says, "V'niskatem lefnei Hashem." We don't need Rabbi Akiva for this. The Pusik says this, but the pshat of Pusik is the Loika Rambam, like We always say about the like, and also the like Kahara Bakiva. Pshat is that Shofar is a way to get God's attention. Again, but if Nachim and Gishim, I have to say it because that's the only way you understand it, right? God could be sleeping or something, and we blow very loud, just like tzak. It's the kind of tefillah. All the yeshivish people know that Ki Shofar is a kind of tefillah. It's a kind of tefillah, and just like this tefillah b'peh, this tefillah b'kli. No, get over here. It was got full. That's favorite that, right? Also, that's the big thing that the Rambam did. The Rambam changed it from belonging to God, from being Mo'ed God to being Mo'ed us. Just like he changed Kol HaTorah Killer like this. It's not a chiddush. The Rambam thinks that Kol HaTorah Killer has this change. The Rambam's shita, but even clearly, nothing is about being Mo'ed God. God is always fine. God doesn't need to be Mo'ed. It's you that needs to be Mo'ed. But that's the Lowy Pshat. And the Chassidut doesn't know like the Rambam. The Chassidut doesn't say anything about Tshuva in Shofar, in Zechronis, anywhere. The Rambam is the one that was mamad everything on Shiva in a radical way. That's why I'm saying all the time that Rambam changed the whole focus of Rosh Hashanah and made everything about Aseres Shiva. The Rambam literally said that Shofar is only the beginning of Aseres Shiva, and the Yom Kippur is only about Shiva, and everything is about Shiva, and that's not what the Pshat is. The Pshat is maybe Shiva as a part, maybe Shiva as a Tanai, but it's not that Shofar only works with Shiva and so on. The Shofar is just a way of saying it to Shiva, it's the opposite. Shofar is a way of tefillah, or a way of achroza, of amlucha, whatever you want to say. It's not pointed towards us, it's pointing towards God. Of course, that's the Pshat HaChimesh and Pshat HaSeder, and also. It says Ki Ata Shemei Kol Shofar, it doesn't say Ki Anachne Shemim Kol Shofar. And some people said that's why the Machlokes, if you say the Shemei Kol Shofar, Tkias Shofar, that's only the Rambam that says Shemei Kol Shofar, because according to him, it's mitzvah to hear. But if the Shlomo Fisher says this, according to the Pshat, we should really say Tkias Shofar. He says that there's Rishonim that say different, right? So he says that it's silly in this. Whatever. Right. Not you don't want to hear. Why do you want to hear the shofar? Yeah. So that's a nachloik. The Rambam literally just did something really radical. Nobody notices this. Everyone's a nice shmissed. Everyone's masking the nice missed. But the Rambam in his Pshat and Tkias Shofar turned everything upside down. Turned Kol HaTorah upside down. It's not only in Tkias Shofar. He generally did this. The Rambam also thinks that Tfalet, see, people don't realize that. I told you it's all out of time. The Rambam in Tanis also turns over the Pshat of Tanis. Everyone thought that Tanis is a way to be misspelled. Tzaka, Tfilah, Tanis, Machtamatzif. And the Rambam says, no, Tanis is to get you to the Tshuva, and he connected this whole Torah about Keri and everything, and people say it's a nice mitzvah, but really it's the Rambam ruining what Tanis means, or changing, not ruining, totally turning it upside down. L'Ria, the Rambam literally reads L'Ria of Tanis, it's literally the same thing, Tkias Shofar, B'chatzotris, whatever, and he makes it mean Mimo'er the Oilam to do Tshuva. Yes. And the Rambam makes that Zokah itself a way to. Okay, next 5 weeks. Okay, but the Rambam, it's not clear what it means, but how to read it. You have to just figure out how to read it. It's just not written the way we wanted to say. It means Tkias Zekurin merely, probably. That's what the Mefarshim say. The Rashbam. So where am I? I was in the middle of saying something. So yeah, the Rambam turned it over.
You're saying that
So now back to I think that Rebbe Akiva is actually doing something different. At least this would match to a lot of different Mordechai Chazal that seem to say this. He's saying that that's not how it works. Nicht the Rambam, and nicht also not the other old way. The old way, push the pshat, is this is the way to get God to wake up. Also Pikabula, right? The new way, the Rambam's way, that's a way to get you to the Shiva. I think that Rebbe Akiva has something different way, which is that doing the mitzvah of Hashem is goyim God to like us. And it's sort of indirect. Nicht pshat by being mispelled Yemei God. He thinks that's too magishim, or for some reason he doesn't like that idea. So he sort of makes it by doing the L'Kayim mitzvahs Tkiya. Al Daizeh you're niskar lefuna l'toiva. Just like the idea of Dam Pesach v'Dam Mila. There's no pshat in mitzvahs. The Chachamim generally think that there's no pshat in mitzvahs. I'm sorry for the Rambam being very mad at this, but Chazal, for the most part, are pretty consistent with mitzvahs not having meaning by themselves. Their meaning is to do mitzvahs Hashem.
Why was he
This is the most fetish Mishnah that there could be. They don't like the idea of using mitzvahs as gods, why God has them, or God has rachmanas and so on. All the Rishonim are mad at this Mishnah, but it's a Mishnah. They all think that it's Gzairis. Like Rashi says, Gzairis Melech. And even when you say a mitzvah is ma'oris ches, we don't mean that the mitzvah has some skill to be ma'oris ches. We mean that doing the mitzvah is ma'oris ches. That's Pshat and Kol HaTorah. I think that's how they see Kol HaTorah.
That's the other Pshat of Chayfetz. The Ramban was telling on Friday.
Yeah. No, this is no. Okay, they're not thinking in these theological terms. Does God have meaning? They would say that. I don't know what they would say. We don't know what God's reasons are. It doesn't matter. But they would definitely say that. Again, there's yesh la'ayin, but I see there's a lot of Chazal that seem to go. This Dam Pesach of Damila is a very good example, right? Nish Pshat, you're going to become a better person by shekning Dam Pesach. Nish Pshat, there's God likes, like the Push Pshat. Again, the old-fashioned, the magical Pshat. That's you have to get. The old-fashioned Pshat is that's a simon for God. Why does God need a simon? A kash for Maase. But that's how the old-fashioned Pshat is, right? Same thing, Shofar. It wakes up God. Does God need to be waken up? Ich weiß nicht. Das ist Al-Pikabuli is saying it means the Spheres. These seem to be, they seem to be very consistently against these kind of pshutim. Whatever, clear. But why do you have to call? Same thing with tefillah. Maybe they might even say that tefillah itself only works by being a mitzvah. Maybe it's very funny to say that. Ich weiß nicht. But there seems to be such a kivun in Chazal many times. Maybe I'm imagining it, but I feel like it says a lot of times in Chazal these kind of things. That it's this chis mitzvah that does things. Of course, the Rambam would retranslate that to mean something more similar to them. But actually, if you read it like this, it's actually very Rambamistic from the Tanum to think like this. Understand? Because they're not happy with mitzvahs actually having a shpua on God in any way, or God needing them in any way. Like the tzad of somebody. And then you actually get closer to where the Rambam, or like the Ramban said, that's really what it means. It's for you in some way. Because of course, maybe you would say that the mitzvahs are for you. But very much not. In other words, I want to get back. This is also something related to what you keep on saying. If you say that the Pshat Chazal is like the Kizri, no, the Pshat Chazal is actually closer to the Rambam, at least referring to mitzvahs. Pshat Chachomim, Pshat Hanuim. There's a marum that say different things. Pshat of Torah Satanuim, if you most of the time, is extremely dry understanding of mitzvahs for the most part. Very much not like desire. Very much in this way of God told you to do it, and doing it is what's like the einliche gudel mezel, like ish recht chech lashem zok trashe, and it's from the Sefri. Shemart even Aseres oini. This is the einliche drei gudel medoyle mezi that chomim do not have not the Ramban's pshat that karbonis are magic like desire and the Kizri, right? Karbonis brings some ashro, not like the Rambam's pshat that they're just for you, but something in between. But closer to the Rambam though than to the Kizri. Shmaskem. I don't like this pshat. I'm masking. I don't like it. I'm a fan of the Rambam, and it has real meaning. But that seems to be what Chazal go with a lot of times. And we have to think of why they do this, and if it's consistent. Maybe the Yotzim and Klal, maybe like the Rambam it's Machloikes, and so on. Of course. Well, Lapi Pshat, we know what it means. Lapi Pshat. It could be that it could be like Chum say that there is a pshat, but they want you to think this because you're going to make the mistakes like Shlomo HaMelech, Noemeg L'Seir L'Seir. That's very explicitly chinuchi Chazal, right? Very explicitly about what they want you to think rather than what the truth is, right? They very explicitly say that there is reasons, but we don't want you to know them. So it could be that that's really what's behind this, and maybe later the Mekabulim and others said, well, we will anyways do it. That could be. And then this is meferish, the pshat. The Medrash says 100 times, right? That we don't want you to. Right, and then there's a machlok. The Gemara says both ways, right? Shemachas advarim is megala advarim. Yasham v'mkacha v'yasham v'mkacha. Yeah.
This Ramban brings out this whole thing.
Yeah, in Keseta. Yeah. So that's really the question. So I think.
That's what he said. It can't be Xeris. It can't be Xeris. It is timing. That's a big timing.
Right, so this in this sense, again, if you ask, that's just if you ask me if this Chazal is like the Rambam's hypothetical shitta where he claims it is, which is that there actually is no tamim. Be'emes, that's not mechrach, because Chazal might be very clearly saying, and in Xeris might be saying very explicitly, you should think of them like Xeris, because otherwise you're going to make mistakes. But they might not necessarily be thinking about God, and it could be even deeper than that. It could be even that the reason why they say this is they don't like speculating about God. I think that's not a good thing to do. You should be like he told Chizkiah, right? You should do what you're told to do. No, but that's Gemara. It's anyways funny because then they go on to give a reason. So what's the pshat? In any case, like this person says, I think his pshat is reasonable. He says that sort of the Kavana says, of course, when you ask a question like this, lama toikim, that's weird. We toik because it says in the Torah. Rahmana, by the way, means Torah, right? We toik because it says in the Torah.
It's different than
Yeah. I think that's what he's saying. I don't know exactly. I'm making it better than him, but I think that's what he's getting at. The same with my Torah, he's saying I want to pshat. I know that everything has a time. It's like he says, it's like he shal chabincha, right? He's basically asking for a time. Although it could be that the answer again, his raya is not such a good raya, because it could be that the answer over there is vaytzavani Hashem lasas. He is assuming that the answer is avodamayini, but it's not clear. Api pshat, I already told you Pesach. Api pshat, that's not saying that the Agudish Pesach does think like him. That the answer is avodamayini, and therefore somehow this is l'zaycha that. Api pshat, the answer is God told him. When did he tell us? By avodamayini. That's how we became mechiyev to do what he told us. Like Rasha's pshat and Asher tzich. Therefore you're mechiyev. But back when what was I saying? So yes, but still it's a difference. So, just yes, side check. When you say mipnei amar Torah,
who asked this question?
mipnei amar Torah is there kivus. Mipnei amar. So was that such a medrash? I weiß nicht. Lama toik, and the Gemara is not happy with that question, right? Well, the question on youth. I was blus the shayf. No, but that nobody, even the Rambam wouldn't be happy with that. Comment to shayf. I was blus the shayf. What do you mean if I was? What kind of question is? Why do I do something different? Now you're already asking a shalas chochem. You understand? It's like a difference between the shalas chochem and the shalas rush from the Aguda somewhat, right? Maybe it's stuck at the same thing. The rush is like lama toiken. Lama toiken is kan shale. Those wissen, wo ist Eides, why did the meaning? What's the look? I'll tell you the pshat. Lev albus as certain. Right. Yeah, but that's, by the way, it's interesting because it's not clear that it was always the meaning, whatever. Could be that originally, but it's just clarifying the memory, what it means. And just, in other words, this duat time, it could be the whole time of the soifel is albus as certain. Could be that really that's taka the time, or at least not only the time, but just saying you have to ask the question like a chochem, not like a rusha, not like the mavod des lechem. Then he says it a little different. He says that what it means, and is you shouldn't not stop doing it if you don't know the time. That's what the Gemara says a lot of times, but it doesn't mean there isn't a time. So from Islam, it just seems it's not the right way to ask the question. You don't say lama toiken. You say mipnei ma'amar Torah. Yeah, that's a serious question. Lama toiken is kind of question.
People today also is very common. Like people say, why are we doing this? It's like, no, they want to answer. Why are we doing this? Torah says.
I actually also think that it's true. See? I would like, now I'm just thinking, I think it's good to say the truth. Because if someone comes, like you're saying, if someone comes and says, like say, some Oibechochem comes and says, was this likes that film? And you're telling me, no, what do you mean? Because the Shabbos lev. You're lying. Nobody put on film because of that. But because your father put out film and he gave you a bar mitzvah and he gave you a new period film and you were happy. That's why. It's not good to lie. Rachmana doesn't mean God. By the way, Rachmana never in Chazal means God. It means Torah. Literally, when we said the Torah said, that's their language, Rachmana. And it's B'di'ik, because Chazal have different kaniyim for different pechenes, if you notice. Rachmana only says when it means Torah. Yeah. But Rachmana is the opposite of Bi'agvira, but Rachmana is always a way of saying the Torah said. When they want to say Kavyochol or Rabban Shlan, they have different words. You have to, Naguda, they use different words. This is B'di'ik, I already talked about this a few times. What I mean to say is, I think Chazal, you see, and I don't like I'm saying, Chazal if you read Pshat Chazal again, the Rambam and the Zohar, they all didn't go like this. Pshat Chazal are not happy with looking for Tamei Mitzvahs. Vurai, they don't. Come on, we don't have to need eyes for this. There's not really Tamei Mitzvahs Shel Chachamim. It just isn't. It's like 2-3 little Medrushim like this that Baruch Hashem, these that Rambam missed and found and they're so happy with. Come on. They don't care. Remuzim unasaf. A lot of Medrushim, that nobody thinks that there's really time. Nobody even thinks that those are really the reason why we do that at Mina. Because it's Keneged. No, that yeah, maybe. That's Rabbi Akiva's met, the same Medrash of Rabbi Akiva. But all these Medrushim, like Keneged Lalev, Keneged Ades. No, it's different. It's Hamshire. It's different. That's Vikra Rabbit. What was I saying? Chazal are not very worried about Tamei. Let's be real. They're worried about the halachas. They're worried means that what they do, Maase. So it's very hard to claim that they really think it's very important. Again, apisot, like I was saying, what I'm trying to say, get it. You're gonna start screaming at me that I am choice myself. I'm just saying what the pshat is, what it would look like. No, let's finish what I was trying to say. Let me finish what I was trying to say. And I don't like it. I would want things to have a reason. And the Rambam has a theological thing because God does things with a reason, and I think that it's not good to get used to doing things without a reason. It might be bad. Or maybe we already pushed it too much this way, we have to push it the other way. But I do think that this Chazal have something very, very straightforward to them. See? They're very unlike the what I call Achroinim, which are never straightforward. They never tell you the truth. Like I was saying earlier, they're never happy with saying, this we just do because we want the stupid people to not become going. Why can't I say that? What's wrong with saying the truth? It's true. That's why.
I don't think like that.
I think they're just confused. They're not used to being straightforward. They're not used to being honest. And this Chazal are very honest. You see, Lama Toiken, yeah, I have a shtickle Torah if you have a sasut, but what do I blow the shofar? Because my father did. It says in the Torah, he didn't blow shofar. And it's enough. It's actually not a bad reason. I don't think Rachmunam Tiki means I'm a brisk and I push it on the mitzvah because God. I don't think it even means Kavana l'Shem mitzvah. I don't think that's really what it means. It just means that's the truth. Don't dry a cup. If you would never have thought it by yourself. You would have never have done it if someone would explain you the shtickle Torah that the Zohar says. Nobody still wouldn't be a good enough reason. The real reason is, and what is no, but it's very balabatish. This nicht heichere Sache steht in the Torah and versteckt schon Kashrus. We're Jews and we do what it says in the Torah. What's wrong with that? That's what I'm trying to say. All these things they're minimum, like I was saying on Alucha. They're not the maximum. Of course, there's good kavun, better kavunas to have, like the Gemara itself says. There's better kavunas that we could learn the Torah ba'omek and trying to understand it. But trying to lie to yourself is not good. I think that I wonder about this, but it's not good to lie. It could be that the true answer is that I'm used to this and this is what we did, and it's fine, and God is happy with that. That's good. Was ist schlecht? There's even the mitzvahs Aseres Kavana really gets to this. Mitzvahs are good enough. What is? No, but that's not an answer. That's not why you're doing it. If I read Lamatik and why you blowing it, that's not why.
We do it.
At the end, the way the Yiddish teretz is in the Torah, but in the Torah means to say, "My Baba geblos, my Zayid geblos, my blos." No. I think that the truth is the truth is a very, very easy way to God. Instead of pretending that you blow shofar because you're makabel al machshman dranshan cup, you would never. If you would be in a midbar rishuna, whatever you guys tzaddik, but most people, if they wouldn't be rishuna and shield, they wouldn't blow shofar. Maybe they would, but man, after a few years you would stop. That's the reality. And there's nothing wrong with that. But Hashem, I think that Chazal have a lot of this straightforwardness. They're not pretending to be very ideological. Yeah, we do it because that's what we are. What's my other eye for this? You have to think of more eyes for this kind of language. This is shtickle drish, but I said it here. The whole thing with not looking for Tamei mitzvahs has to do with this, I think. Because they're being honest. They're saying we don't really know. Maybe they were relevant 1,000 years ago and now we don't understand. Like the Rambam says. Of course, that's a very sweet thing. And therefore, what? We don't know, so we might as well continue doing it. The ones we could, we understand as much as we do, as much as we could. It's not so. Think of an example of this. Anyways, Kitzer.
This is what I was talking. I said Shulchan Aruch. I don't have to do it. They're making more big deal just doing the mitzvahs.
But all of my pshutim don't lead you to make that mean that's important.
It doesn't mean doing
Could be that's taka the reason, and don't dry a cup that it's something else. Could be that it could be that the taka thought that it would be bad to tell you the reason because you're gonna make a mistake. It could be that. It could be that it's just what they're doing, and they're not. It could be like what I was saying. There's another book that says the real thing, and that's just as real. And it's also true that they definitely combined the realness of whatever the kavuna is with at least Chazal and the Chumash. Yeah, I don't think you could make the Chumash is not halacha seifa. That's very very hard case to make if that's the Tana. You could make other Tanas from the Chumash against the Rambam. That's very far from halacha seifa. I mean, the Chumash is a good seifa. I mean, we don't learn it by Seder halacha. We learn it by Seder Misr, no? In Chumash? Where do you see Agdoras? Beside that, then you're making them the Chumash. But the Chumash is stories, and it has some halachas and these parshas and so on. There's halachas, but it's not only that; it's also that. So it's hard to make a claim. I mean, the Rishonim that came up with Chavos Lavovos, their big thing was to use the Chumash against the Mishnah in a certain sense.
What do you mean?
Not against the Mishnah, like against how Halacha was created, I mean. Because they said, what do you mean? The Nevi'im are full of Chavos Lavovos and so on, and you can't go against the Psikim. So that's definitely part of what they were doing. So
But it's not a law. It's not a law. It says mitzvahs. Allah means it says Maase.
that's another thing. It's another thing.
It's not Allah. Allah says how to do the mitzvahs. Well,
I want to go back to this. I want to say something about Dish Hashem Matzah to finish, because officially that was the sheet about. So in a similar way, when you talk about this, is really what we're supposed to talk about. So at least I have to say one word about it. If we have a question, Dish Hashem Matzah, this is his question also really started with it or he ends with it. Was meint das Dish Hashem Matzah? So it said the Chachamim is a stira, steht Mechal Krane Ele, it says Matzah, kam beyuchat, kam betzibbe, beyuchat Aseres met Shiva. Okay. Now, of course, the Rambam can't accept this at face value. He does bring it, but he can't accept it, right? Because obviously God doesn't have office hours, and obviously, God will answer if you do it in the correct way, not if it's in the right time. This makes no sense. Tshuva should work always. And he says, beferish, the Rambam, when he brings this halacha, says, Afa pisha tshuva tzaka me'ele tomid, yufa b'yoyse. Nobody knows what. Can you explain what's yufa b'yoyse? Either God listens, what's this yufa b'yoyse?
easier.
What does that mean? What does this even mean? Can you tell me in Yiddish what it means?
What it means is that
So a whole year, 4 out of 6 tefillas get niskabel, and then he says machiva 5 out of 6 tefillas. What does it mean? That's what it means. Maybe that's what it means. Weiß nicht. But either it works or it doesn't work. There's not try. There's no in between.
this is particularly perceptive.
What was mine? I have to explain what it means. You have to explain what it means.
It's easy to be niskabel.
But now I want to. So that now the Rambam definitely, and at least the Talmidim say openly that it doesn't mean anything. Okay, it means really that because we make a massive out of it. So of course it's true. Of course when you're doing tshuva and you're not eating paspalta or whatever, then God is closer to you. But it actually works the other way around. And actually, they would say it's one of the Masorah, the Torah, either Torah Shofar or the Shbaksav, decided to make one time a year. That's a good aitzah, just like call it Terikil is aitzah Toivus. It's a good aitzah because otherwise we're going to forget. Otherwise, different ways of framing why it's useful to have as man shiva once a year, but it seems to be a very useful thing. And that's really what we mean. But not, and why ping this man? So a good question. So the Rambam says because Yom Kippur was Medichas Shneiyos, so sort of everything starts from that. That's really the Rambam's answer in Mar Nevoichem. We could find no pshutim why ping this man, but that's basically it's not real that this man something happens to Muslim or something. It's just yeah. So now since you were asking me what does it say in the Chumash, or what does it say in the thing, so we have to understand what's going on. Again, the Chumash that actually says is on the Rambam's side. Because everyone knows, and by the way, the Bala Medrash of Dish Hashem Mati also knew this. Dish Hashem Mati doesn't mean in a certain time. Read the next word. Read the next line, and no shayches. Right? Yeah, it means the Tshuva. Now, what does it mean? It's a good question. What it exactly means? The Targum Yonason, which Chachamim read, says Dish Hashem Mati as long as you're alive. Afterwards it's going to be too late, and the Medrash says according to that maybe it could have means because God is coming. He could have him Hashem because you don't have everyone is moided that there's basically this pasuk, and that's what the Medrash in this drush over here is marich. This pasuk is basically a drush, or the shayan of his drush's tshuva, right? The shayan of his drush, right? And shayan is saying do it when you could be matzeh kishata yochel, basically. Now how does this mean kishata yochel? When you're still alive, as long as you didn't get the oynish yet. The next that didn't, however you read it, it doesn't say anything about you being a specific date for it. Every pshat, nobody thinks that that's the pshat. And the stira b'chol krani alev is not a stira b'chlal. I have to show the ganze stira, right? Nor, so what is actually going on? So says the Rambam, says this Talmid Rambam at least. So it means the other way around, faket. And Tkias stimmt. In other words, if you say bimatzah, let's say bimatzah means when the person is micham, when the person is roy, when the person is shiva. Taka when there's the day Aseres mat shiva, God's bimatzah, of course. But actually connecting sort of the pshat to the drash, right? Now you tell me that's not what it says. So I will tell you it is what it says. Actually. Because what does it say? When did Michal get this idea that Aseres met Shiva? Or B'Yochad B'Tzibah? Where did Michal get this idea? I actually think I know where let's talk about Aseres met Shiva. Although the Gemara doesn't mamish say that Mimatzah is Aseres met Shiva, it sort of says. But where yeah, but it says that that's Liyochad. First the Teretz says L'Rab Liyochad and Liyochad by Aseres met Shiva. Okay, there's two levels, which is some interesting, but there's line. But I think that the pshat is very simple. There's a haftarah for Aseres met Shiva. There's really two haftarahs for Aseres met Shiva. Everyone knows, right? There's a siman, noyach, whatever the siman is, and the haftarahs are Shiva and Dirshi, right? We read on some Gedalia Kelly, but then from that we started reading it on all the Tanais. But originally it's just the haftarah Sam Gedalia, which is basically also Sam Gedalia is a fake reason for fasting, right? The real reason for fasting is because Aseres met Shiva, right? You know, I don't know, makes sense, right? That's mizok. That's not steer. That's a machlokes. I once had a psishtigel Torah about it. I think not. No, the Rab doesn't hold like this. But it's mashma. Come on, whoever heard of Gedalia ben Achikam? It don't make sense. What does that he say? Yeah, that he does connect it. Yeah. So it makes sense. He's not crazy. Akapunim, the Matzad Haftarah for sure like this. There was originally two Haftarahs for Aseres met Shiva, and one of them is Dirshi. So of course the Darshan that got up, he said Dirshi Hashem B'Matzah, Ven, Tante men Shiva. It's not even, it's like all Medrashim have the same logic. They take a concept, a general concept, and they apply it to a concrete thing, right? Tzadik, ich weiß, the guy the Drush from Pirem, Yochen Rush will be Tzadik, Rush is Zoman, and Tzadik is Matcha. So he really thinks that the Mishle meant Homan and Matcha, didn't mean anything else. He's just saying that this is an application of the general principle of Tzadik and Rush, as in this context is Homan and Matcha. All Medrushim don't work in this logic. It's nothing new. That's a Pshata Medrash. And I think very similarly, when it said Dish Hashem Matzah, of course, when you could, that's what, let's assume that Matzah means when you could, as long as you're good, as long as you're healthy, as long as you're not going to, in other words, it's not forever, not always going to have a chance. There's an end sometime. And of course, no one, he's saying a Drusha, Aseres met Shiva, and he's saying, let's do it now. Rabbi is saying, this is what we're doing. We made a Tanis at Aseres, right? That's what a Tanis really means. Tanis means it doesn't even mean to fast, Lavdavka, it means we get together. And Shan, and he says that it's now. And why is it now? Because we got together now. If you want to do tomorrow B'Yochid, then it will also be good, because at least it's before Yom Kippur, so you're taking it seriously. That's really what the Yochid and Tzibur is doing, right? Tzibur means when the Tzibur got together, they made a Tanis. And Yochid is, Aseres met Shiva is very funny, the Gemara, because you have to think that it's very funny that the Gemara found Aseres met Shiva B'Yochid. The Yochid is, Aseres met Shiva is already a Shiva's Tzibur, man, isn't it? So maybe it's talking about Cheta Yochid, Cheta Tzibur. Maybe there's a difference. But Lamaas, I think that the Pshat is like this. The Pshat is not that Aseres met Shiva something happens in Olam Atzilas, and therefore. The Pshat is, of course, the Gemara knows, and the Medrash knows that Hashem Yimot has a simple Pshat. And they're saying, let's apply it today. I don't think it's Bechlal Ruchik what the Rambam and his friends are saying. That it's just and therefore, when the Rambam says it's Yofa B'Yoser, he's also just doing that drusha. He doesn't mean to make a halacha that Aseres met Shiva is B'Yoser Korev. What he's saying is, yeah, now that we doing it, it's B'Yoser Korev. And this is B'Darkei Shiva. This is to make the manim and to get together and all of that. Because we're already doing it.
Once we're doing it,
that's why. It's not really Yofa B'Yoser. It's Yofa B'Yoser because it's your chance, because we already got you to woken up by the Shofar, man. You're already up. It's better to do Tshuva when you're waking up than when you're sleeping. Man, you have a lot more work. No, it's not Behemshech. It's not different. The first parak, right? Where is it? It's before. It's in the second parak. The Aseres met Shiva. Medarkei Shiva. It's Medarkei Shiva. Yeah. No, you for sure see it together. But in the Rambam, it's in the second parak. It's Medarkei Shiva. No, I think that it's Medarke Tshuva, and I think the way he understands it, I explained to you a few times. Darke Tshuva is the Rambam's ways to get people to do Tshuva. And one of the ways is to say that it's Yefa B'Yoseh. This is the way. Really, the Yefa B'Yoseh is just him adding this thing that it's not real. It's better, in other words. Kitzur Maase, we're doing it now, so it's better. It's always, you know when the best time to do Tshuva? When you do Tshuva. When else? That's also the push the pshat, be motzei, when you're doing it. That's when. But Aseres Matshiva is the time that we do it. There isn't anything else. And I'm just saying that I don't think that this is b'chlal the loika pshat. I saw the Rav Chizoi Kreskas and others seem to think that the pshat is not like this, but I am not sure. I'm not convinced b'chlal. If you actually, in other words, b'chlal, this is the klal for Chazal. It's not for the Chumash, but if you focus on how the medrash got structured, how did they get to this medrash? Like, where did they take it from? Imagine from Masorah that God is close and 10 days in Tishra. Where did they get it from? They got it from this, from the reality. Who holds nishtazeh? It's not. I didn't give you that paper. He talks about it beferish in the sefer. I think maybe I didn't copy it. I think on the last page I did give it to you. Maybe I took it away because I did that. He talks about it, but okay, it gets there. He says that there's a difference, but he also gives both. We could see we have to get to it another time. There's other shit there. He talks about it. Okay. Okay, that's enough today, I think. Wow.
He says the end of it. This is the